Good afternoon. My name is Maria Robles, and today I wanted to talk to you about my story and how this ties into our Holy Week. Today, I'm here as a Catholic. My parents brought me to this country when I was 4 years old, and from then started my journey with immigration. Much like Jesus, his journey to different lands. I believe that we are all put in this earth with a purpose, and mine is to bring a voice to the oppressed and the people in my community that live in the shadows. So my journey with immigration system started in '86, because I always get the question, well, why don't you just do it right? Why don't you come here legally? So it started in '86 with the amnesty. My mother had petitioned for myself and my sister. But also in the middle of that, she had recently become a widow, and she had 4 children under the age of 11. So that meant that in her family, she's the oldest, and I'm the oldest in her family. That same year, her father, my grandfather, got ill, and it was a question of who would they send? Would she go to help, or would she send me? So I was 11 years old, and I was sent, and I helped care for him. The ending of the story of that was that they amputated his left foot. Or leg. And so I came back with a temporary resident card, no problem getting back in. I was 11, traveled with her brother, my uncle, and went along my merry way. In the 90s, my mom and my sister had already adjusted. They were legal permanent residents. Maria was just getting temporary renewals for 1 year, and that went on for many years, at least 10, 15. In '92, I go and I try to adjust or renew my permit or my temporary resident status, and they say, I'm sorry, your case has been closed. The reason that you gave for being out of the country wasn't urgent enough, and so you are now out of status. And so my mother petitioned for me again, now a child over the age of 21, unmarried. So I start my second journey in another line. And we went along in that line until my own daughter now turns 21. She petitioned for me again, and you would say, well, that ends that journey. Well, no, because now I have to prove to the USCIS that I came into the country legally. And I don't have a proof, because when I came into the country, the officer just saw my temporary resident and waved me in. Literally just saw that it was valid, no paperwork. At that time, I didn't know I was going to need a receipt, so I carried none. And so when it came time to adjust the status, the options are either you came here legally and you have to prove it, or you have to do consular process, which means you would have to go to your country, so exit the US, but because you have accrued more than 365 days of illegal status, then you can be barred between 3 to 10 years. I've been here since I was 4. I know no other country. So that's not an option. So the status right now remains with the work permit under my daughter's petition, and we're waiting and praying that those immigration officers that gave me the interview will find it in their heart to see that Maria belongs here. And so that's just a piece of my journey, and I'm privileged and I'm blessed that I have that little protection with the work permit, because thankfully for 20 plus years, under one line or another, I've been able to renew it. But what happens with this administration? What happens when I go to renew in May, because my status expires in September? What will happen to me? And so I wanted to read to you from a very near and dear verse, Leviticus. When a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not wrong him. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I, the Lord, am your God. Leviticus 19, verse 33. As I reflect in this Holy Week, for me as a Catholic, I remember Jesus was detained this week. And Jesus was also turned over to Poncio Pilatos. I don't know how to translate it, I'm sorry. To be judged for seeking the welfare of his people. I can't help but remember that are documented families. Mine in particular. My parents were looking for a better life for their kids. I don't know their reasons, but they too, the families that come here, we've seen it all across the media. They're detained. My husband is undocumented. I can't imagine being separated from my husband and the pain my children will feel. My 11-year-old thinks about that all the time and tells me, Mom, I don't want to go to another country. We too, as undocumented families, are arrested and separated from our families for seeking the welfare of ourselves. And as we remember today Christ's affliction on the way to the cross, let us not forget the affliction of those families, those immigrant families whose deportation and separation from their families, at least to me, would equivalent death. I don't know any parent that wouldn't feel a piece of their self dying if they're separated from their children or their families. So I ask you today to stand with us, to talk to immigrant families. We are not what the empire is trying to sell. We are all mothers, fathers, good standing citizens, and we're just asking for a chance to belong and a place to live among our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you.